Let's talk about a 400-year-old trial that, believe it or not, feels more relevant today than ever. It's the story of one scientist up against an entire empire, and their fight for truth tells us so much about our own struggles here in the age of AI. Okay, so to really get what happened with Galileo, you first have to understand this timeless conflict. See, in every single era, there are forces working against the truth, trying to bend reality to fit a certain story.
Sometimes these enemies are super obvious. They're the visible institutions, right? The power structures, the empires of belief that make the rules and hold all the authority. They're the establishment.
But other times, these forces are a lot harder to pin down. They're the invisible systems, the traditions, the biases baked into our brains, the very way we're taught the world works, all shaping how we think without us even knowing it.
And that is what made Galileo's trial completely unique. This wasn't just about one man. In a very real way, the trial put the entire universe on the witness stand. It forced this massive showdown between 1,000 years of pure belief and one brand new disruptive idea. Now, to really appreciate the stakes here, we've got to travel back in time. We need to understand the world Galileo was born into, because it was a world that saw its place in the cosmos in a completely different way.
You have to remember, for more than 1,000 years, the idea that Earth was the center of everything, that wasn't just some astronomy theory. No, it was everything. It put humanity right at the heart of a divine plan. The universe was perfect, it was structured, it had a moral order with a flawed Earth down below and the flawless heavens up above. This wasn't just science, it was how everything made sense.
So you see, challenging this model was way more than just scientific curiosity. The whole system of meaning was built on a stationary Earth. To even suggest that it moves was to threaten the very foundations of theology, morality, and certainty itself. It was basically an act of rebellion.
All right, so let's bring in our main character. He was this impatient, brilliant, and kind of sharp-tongued mathematician from Pisa. And he was about to point a new invention at the night sky that was going to change, well, everything.
Galileo's whole thing was this incredibly powerful, and at the time, really dangerous idea, that truth is found in what you can actually see and measure. He believed that hard evidence matters more than ideas that are just handed down through tradition.
And with what was basically just a tube with some lenses in it, Galileo started taking a sledgehammer to a millennium of belief. He saw mountains on the moon, proving the heavens weren't some perfect glassy spheres. He spotted moons orbiting Jupiter, which showed that, hey, not everything goes around the Earth. And then the phases of Venus delivered the knockout blow, proving the old model was just plain wrong. Just like that, the universe cracked wide open.
So yeah, this was never going to be a polite scientific debate. This was an inevitable collision course. Because this wasn't really about science versus religion. It was a fundamental battle over a much deeper question. How do we actually know what's true?
And this gets right to the heart of the conflict. You had two completely different ways of knowing. On one side, truth was something revealed, handed down from God through the scriptures. It was top down and it was fixed. On the other side, truth was something you discovered. You went out and found it in the world through observation, and it was always evolving.
Look, the church's position was crystal clear, and it was powerful. They argued from a place of absolute divine authority. For them, Scripture was the final word, the ultimate truth, and some man-made instrument, this telescope, couldn't possibly be allowed to contradict it.
Galileo's response was so simple, but it was incredibly profound, and to the people in charge, it was heresy. He basically argued that reality itself gets the final say. If nature shows you one thing and your interpretation of Scripture says another, well, maybe it's the interpretation that needs another look, not reality.
Faced with an impossible choice, Galileo learned a brutal lesson. Institutions don't lose debates, they just preserve their own power. So in 1633, under the threat of imprisonment and torture, the old scientist formally took back everything he had said. Okay, so let's fast forward 400 years, because that whole drama from the 17th century, it is playing out all over again right now. The stage looks different, the actors have new names, and the tech is way more complex, but the core struggle is almost exactly the same.
Think about it. The tools and the authorities have changed, but the battle for reality is the same. Instead of telescopes showing us a new cosmos, we have algorithms shaping our personal reality. Instead of popes, we have giant tech platforms. And instead of geocentrism, we have the invisible pull of our own biases and the digital echo chambers that create a universe that revolves entirely around what we already believe.
The questions just echo through time, don't they? Back then, the fight was about our place in the physical universe. Today, it's about our place in a reality that's being shaped by artificial intelligence. Is our own ability to understand the world becoming obsolete?
So, after all of that, what's the big takeaway from Galileo's story? What is the enduring legacy of this whole trial for truth?
In the short term, Galileo absolutely lost. He was silenced, put under house arrest for the rest of his days. But his method, this idea of testing things, of measuring, of experimenting, that became the very foundation of the modern world. The institution won the battle, but the idea won the war.
You know the legend, right? That after he recanted, Galileo supposedly whispered these defiant words. Now, whether he actually said them doesn't really matter. They become this incredible symbol of an unstoppable idea, that you can try to suppress the truth, but it has a power, a motion, all its own.
Galileo's story is the ultimate reminder that every time truth is forced to kneel, it doesn't stay down for long. It always gets back up, usually stronger than it was before, because reality doesn't bend to authority forever.
And all of this leaves us with one final, urgent question for us right now. Galileo fought for the right to look through a piece of glass and just trust what he saw. As new digital authorities, these invisible algorithms, rise up to define reality for us, will we have the courage to do the same? Will we fight for the right to trust our own eyes?